Joining us now from Abuja is the Executive Director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, Dr. Sam Amadi. And in the studio here we have a lawyer and policy analyst, Okiki Adeniran. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So first, I'm going to be starting. Let's start by asking if the FCT administration legally empowered, is it, or are they legally empowered to seal or repossess private property? Let me start with you here in the studio with us.
Well, I believe that they are not legally empowered. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because before you can seal up a property, you need to get an order of court. Now, to get an order of court, right, it means that you need to approach the court, file proper processes before the court, and get the order of court to seal up the property. Now, what the FCT wants to do at this time is to arbitrarily go to those places, those properties, and seal up those properties. Yes, we know that they're probably owing their, ground rents, they're owing ground rent, and things are happening, but it still does not give the power to the FCTA to, go there to go and seal up arbitrarily, and that is why we have arms of government. Now, you cannot be a judge in your own case. You cannot, decide that a person is owing you at the same time you want to go and take an action to execute an action. Now, where is the place of fair hearing in this? So, legally speaking, they do not have that right to go in and seal up properties arbitrarily.
So the FCTA cannot be its own arbiter in this case.
At all.
Well, let's come to Mr. Sam Amadi. Mr. Sam, I'm hoping that you're there. If you could give us an idea of the international laws that's guiding embassies in other countries and what is privy to them regarding this situation here with the FCTA.
Well, first, I think Nigeria is a signatory to the Vienna Convention that promotes and protects diplomatic privileges. Again, if you look at section 23 and 24 of the Vienna Convention, 23 particularly exempts embassies, premises of diplomatic premises from taxes and rents. So it's clearly whether Nigeria may have the opportunity to, the sovereign rights to levy all kinds of taxes on premises and properties, but there's some limitations to how they can send to embassies and diplomatic property. Again, in international law, these premises are equivalent of foreign contracts. So entrance into those premises are also restricted. So even though you have maybe a Zambia High Commission across the road, you can't just enter into that property, because even though it's Nigeria, it's actually a Zambian government, Zambian territory. It has a sovereign protection as well as diplomatic immunity. Even baggages of diplomats in transit, documents, archives, Section 34, Article 24 of the Vienna Convention exempt them from state scrutiny. So the Mr. President, under the constitutional law, talk about the sole organ. The president under Section 5 of the Constitution is both the chief executive, the commander-in-chief, and is a sole organ. As a sole organ, he is responsible for transactions with foreign countries. And when we sign to these conventions and ratify them, we are bound by them. And again, the Nigerian Supreme Court has held before Abuja that these international laws that are ratified by Section 12 of our Constitution, where these laws can become ratified and incorporated in Nigerian law, or basically ratified, they become laws that even the Nigerian courts will protect and promote and enforce. So apart from political rhetoric, the FCT minister first will be breaching diplomatic protocol and privileges to even enter without consent premises of foreign countries in Nigeria, because those premises have diplomatic immunity. Secondly, it can't even attach those buildings in purported execution of rent and ground rent, because by Section 23, they ought to be exempted. And again, it's exercising power given to him by the president under Chapter 5 of the Section 5 of the Constitution. And so you can't do anything that the president under international law should not do. So yes, there might be diplomatic channels to make sure that these embassies pay what they ought to pay. But even if they are in default, I used to be an advisor to Foreign Affairs Minister. And I do know that Nigerian missions oftentimes are in serious default. We had issue with the French government over our Nigerian diplomatic house in France, in Paris. So sometimes we be the only people who are owing. So this, virtue signal, this heroism, as if Nigeria does not owe rent. I mean, look at it, 1 million, 3 million. I think it's unnecessary controversy. I think perhaps the minister is bluffing. Okay. Basically can't do this.
Now, Mr. Amadi, noting that these lands are, well, definitely belong to these countries since their embassies are here in Nigeria, the question now is what recourse does the FCTA have, noting that they do have to follow due process?
I think first that I don't even think it's arguable whether they should pay rent, ground rent to anybody. But let's get the point clear. Even if they are default, I mean, you write to them, you have to, like my colleague, the lawyer said, you probably have to go to due process. But I'm saying the due process, you go to court, perhaps court authorizes you to seal premises. Even if as a private person, you cannot basically come and seal. Of course, if they have a rent tribunal can issue, there are administrative tribunals that under the FCT law, you could set up tribunals that could issue those orders, and those orders become executable by the authority. But absent of that, it shouldn't be the minister says, you know what, we're going to seal this place. No, there should be some sense in which there is administrative adjudication, which is a process not like court, but a process that allows some kind of interdiction. Just like, for example, when you are caught in a traffic offense, when the traffic road safety official confronts you and bills you, he has conducted some kind of judicial hearing. So there's a due process. But the bigger question here is you just can't, you will be violating international protocol, international privilege, and in violating the diplomatic immunity conferred based on international law, which Nigeria is a secret.
All right.
So
okay.
it's needless and
Mr. Sam Amadi, my apologies. I have to come to Okiki here in the studio because we have very little time. Okiki, we all know the antecedent of our FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike. Should he choose to breach the protocol that has been stipulated in the Nigerian Constitution regarding foreign embassies and diplomatic houses, what could happen to the relationship between Nigeria and these countries?
Well, there will be serious international crisis in the sense that Nigeria will be put in a position where these countries will then look at Nigeria as a lawless country. And I'm saying this because if we have, an agreement, we sign an agreement, we both agree that particularly regarding these countries, when they are concerned about, probably coming into the embassy or whatever space they occupy, they are supposed to be immune against a lot of things. And, if we breach that particular agreement, it means that it shows how lawless, a country is, if that will be done. So right now, I believe that the minister should probably be advised. There's the Attorney General of the Federation, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, at this point, should be talking to him that this step you've decided to take shouldn't be. As a matter of fact, if you take this step, it will affect a lot of other things. You don't want to hear or you don't want to know that the other countries probably decided to, stop Nigeria from coming to the country based on a single step that will be taken by a particular person. So I believe that at this point in time, this, should be addressed. Just the president should look into this, just the way he looked into some, properties that he had, I told them to stop execution on. Look into this also, and put a stop quickly before certain steps are taken, and this can affect the country in that sense.
Would you have any advice that any further steps that maybe the FCTA could take, or maybe even these embassies when it comes to this situation here?
Well, it should be legal. Like Mr. Sam said, for the embassies, they are immune against a lot of things. In fact, their cars, that is why you see, when you see their cars even moving, they have on it diplomats. And that means that you cannot do anything to them at that time. You can't even, a police can't even stop and say, well, let me search you.
They're subject to different kind of rules.
Yes.
In this country, while they're in this.
While they're in the country. So it means even at the time, if a criminal scales a fence into the embassy, the person is immune already. You cannot go in there to say, I'm going to pick you out. I'm going to take you out of the place. So what our advice is that for the government, follow due process. If there's for the private persons, for the embassies, I believe that all these, there are laws against, even charging the embassies for these kind of things. So basically, let the government take proper steps regarding the private individuals, and for the embassies, let them exempt them from this, since there's a law that guides this.
All right, Mr. Sam Amadi, let me come to you for your final remark here regarding this. Do you think that there might be other interests regarding the situation from the FCT minister, or is it just a case of him not knowing or understanding the laws that guide these embassies or mission houses?
I think it's a bit of ignorance and perhaps hubris. See, well, he wants to be a performing minister, and the concept of performance is this ability to ride roughshod, ability to look tough. So he said, look, I'm going to step on toes, and big toes, he said so. I said, I would like to hunt big men. So there's no bigger toe than foreign countries. So if you're accusing the minister of saying, look, this minister is going after some people, going after PDP, you say, okay, you know what, I'm going after the High Commissioner. So you cannot say, oh, wow, this is a tough guy. So I think it's a confusion around what it means to be courageous, what it means to be a leader. Everyone wants to ramp up in approved achievement. Mr. Wike is going around knocking down houses, going around stealing places where there is government. He's a tough guy. I think that's really what it is. And some bit of lack of knowledge about procedure. And that's the danger of having around yourself persons who probably don't know or wouldn't bother to say, Minister, you just can't do this. I mean, yes, we would like to get all the defaulters and get paid, but the Minister of Foreign Affairs, if there are embassies that owe you, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is the one who should write to them. There are diplomatic channels, even if I doubt if there's need for them to pay those governments, but even if there is, it is the Minister of Foreign Affairs who, through diplomatic language, who through some sense of, decorum and channels, will call these people and say, hey guys, you got to pay this is what they're owing. They will write back to Nigeria. By the way, we have countries that are supplying electricity, who are our neighbors, who have strategic value that they bring to the table. And even when we don't have people say, why are we sending 150 megawatts to Togo, to Benin Republic, to these places? And say, look, it's diplomatic relationship. There are some treaty obligations. There are some, economic, exchanges that they help us. They don't do their dams so that water doesn't overflow like Niger. And we say, okay, you know what? We support them with this. So you can't just sit as a minister of FCT and think that you can just, pull for your brain something that's okay. No, the president is the one who will challenge to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who knows the process, and they have discussion with their foreign ambassadors, and then they come to some understanding. I mean, it's reckless. It doesn't speak well of government for Minister of FCT to say, I'm going to seal embassies. So the ambassadors will just say, perhaps it's a bullish government that does not proceed.
Mr. Sam Amadi, I want to say thank you very much for joining us this evening. Also in the studio here with us, Okiki Adeniran. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go on a very short break. When we come back, we've got more inside the 6 o'clock news. Stay with us.